Hello, I'm Carol Heft, and I'm here at the Blue Mountain Gallery, and very happy to introduce my exhibition, PATHOS. The exhibition will be up from March 31st until April 24th. This exhibition is a group of paintings and drawings that were started about 3 years ago in response to really news stories and images of some of the difficult and really tragic events around the world that involved refugee families, people who were displaced by warfare, either civil war or outside attacks. And there have been many images of those families in the media. And I was very moved and didn't really know how to even respond. So I thought it would, I decided to paint about what I was feeling, really, and developed some compositions which are included in this exhibition. This painting is essentially an underpainting, but I included it in the exhibition because I think it clearly embodies a lot of the theme of the exhibition, including figures that are relating to each other physically and also emotionally. For example, in this piece, the figures are floating. Are they falling? Are they rising? These are some of the questions that came up as I was creating the painting. So the subject matter is somewhat open to interpretation, but the theme of pathos, I think, exists here. There's a feeling that hopefully is evoked through the body language and gesture. Okay, this painting is about light. It's also about people, of course. It's about separation, literally, and also multi-generational relationships. The figures are nude in most of these paintings, and that's a choice that I think, particularly in this one, indicates a kind of vulnerability and dignity, really, of the human figure. So in this case, also what's very important to me in any kind of work that I do is design and balance and composition. So particularly in this one, the areas of light and how your eye moves around the picture plane and the surfaces, I think, are part of what interested me very, very much about this. And in these paintings, there are different degrees of finish. So, for example, there's a lot of drawing that's still seen under drawing in a sense here, but there are other areas that are more polished, you might say, or the surface is more has more resolution. This grouping, these figure drawings are gesture drawings, pretty much. Some of, these two are very kind of ephemeral, as if there's a kind of sfumato, if you will, looking through space or layers of air. These are a little bit longer poses and more concrete or stable. But I think the gestures kind of relate to the other gestures of the figure drawings and paintings in the exhibition. This one in particular, and this work is extremely derivative. I've studied art history, theme of war, human suffering, redemption, forgiveness, empathy. These are very universal themes. And so this particular painting really came from a drawing, but it really came from looking at historical references about that theme, sorrow, desperation, fear. Along the same lines, this painting is especially significant to me because of the kind of role reversal that you see in the image. Usually mother and child, the mother is taking care of the child, embracing the child, protective. And in this one, the child is comforting the adult. And I think we can all probably relate to that on some level from our own lives, but particularly when we look at images now of, or when I look at images now of some of the civilian casualties and victims of some of the displaced refugees throughout the world, the idea of children comforting adults, there's a lot of pathos in that, and it's very moving. This big painting I worked on for a couple of years, or through a few years, and it started out, actually, this painting started out as just the bottom part. And I looked at it and looked at it and looked at it and realized that the bottom part of the painting is very dense and condensed with figures that are clinging to each other, in some cases comforting each other, mourning death, trying to escape. I like this little guy trying to get out of the painting. But as I looked at it and worked on it, I felt like it was just too much all in the same place, and there was no place for them to go. I put the other canvas on top of it, and then this composition evolved, this kind of diagonal movement and around the surface. The figures at the top are less finished, quote, than the ones at the bottom. It's an interesting painting to me. I have kind of mixed feelings about it sometimes, but because there are different degrees of finish in parts of it. However, that's kind of part of the story, I think, that the more ethereal parts at the top contrast with the density of the emotion at the bottom. I wanted to talk about this particular wall. I really like this arrangement, and also want to say that my friend Nancy Pruzanowski helped design the show, and it was her idea to put these paintings together here. And I really love the way they look, because the two drawings flanking this, really high, well, I don't know about the high contrast, but it's very dark and dense, this painting in the middle. And this drawing kind of, there's lots of movement in it, and it almost feels like these figures are struggling to get away from each other, get out. They're almost enclosed in each other's bodies, and they're trying to fight their way out or something, or they're layers of figures and lines. The lines themselves, when I think the marks themselves are beautiful in a drawing, and that's important to me. But there's a lot of diversity here, and yet it really works well as a unit. All this activity and movement, and then this is very stable. There's those three characters, and the vertical line in the composition that's, things aren't moving around too much. There's movement within the spaces and the background and so on, but it's a pretty stable composition, particularly compared to that, and yet they seem very compatible. And then this one is just a couple of scribbles. You know, it looks like a pentimenti situation where I kept on wiping the paper away and then redrawing and wiping it away, redrawing. And those few lines that are left are somewhat eloquent, I thought. So that's when I stopped.